Hello and welcome to Murphy's Garden. This is part 2, and in this video we'll be looking at how to plant a yew hedge. Before planting any hedge, it is important to remove any turf or weeds. This reduces competition and helps the hedge to establish more easily. As it wasn't a huge area and the ground is soft and wet, we did the job manually using an edger and a spade, but if you have a lot of turf to remove, it is definitely worth hiring a turf cutter. We've done this many times in the past, and as you can see from this time lapse from April 2019, we used a turf cutter to cut out a lot of turf for some new borders that we were creating. It made the job so much easier and less knackering on the knees. I personally don't really like to use chemicals, but some people use weed killer to kill competing vegetation. But just remember that if you do this, you should do it several weeks before you plan to plant your new hedge. Once the competing vegetation has gone, Alistair tilled the earth using a rotavator. This isn't always necessary, but as we've had diggers and machines on the site and the ground was very compacted, it was definitely needed here. Once this was done, I then placed a weed suppressant membrane onto the area in preparation for planting. The membrane reduces the number of weeds that grow considerably, helping the hedge to establish whilst allowing moisture to pass through to the plants. Alternatively, you could just mulch the area after planting with bark chippings, but I find the birds flick them everywhere and this provides a better long-term solution. I pegged the membrane into position, folding a bit under at each end. This stops it unravelling. I then work out the spacing for my hedging plants. I'm planting yew, and it is recommended to plant 2 or 3 per metre in a single row. This works out to be intervals of about 60 centimetres. As yew is a formal hedge, it is important for the hedge to be planted perfectly straight. But if you are using a membrane, this is quite easy, as there are lines that you can follow. When planning the design for the site over a year ago, we worked out that we would need 36 yew plants. We bought the yew plants last February and had them delivered along with some hornbeam trees that we were buying at the time. Buying them along with the trees meant that we had no extra delivery charge, and buying them as small root ball hedging plants is really cheap compared to pot growing, which are only available later in the season. We knew we wouldn't be using them for a while, and so we heeled them into the old vegetable patch and kept them well watered over the summer months. Nearly a year on and I'm ready to plant. The advantage is that the hedges are quite big, having had a year extra of growth. That extra height would have cost a lot more money. Just to illustrate this point, 36 root ball hedging plants between 30 and 45 centimetres cost £1.75 plus VAT, whereas 60 to 80 centimetre plants cost £12 plus VAT. So to do the whole job with the smaller plants would cost £75.60, whereas the bigger plants would have cost £518.40. This is a huge saving of £442.80 for the whole job. Therefore, a really good tip if you are thinking of planting a hedge in the next year or two and you have the space, buy it now root balled and let it grow while you're making your plans. It's surprising how quickly they do grow. This hedge was planted in 2013 and is already over 6 foot tall. Once you have your hedging either delivered or dug up, it needs to go into the ground as quickly as possible. It is a good idea to soak the roots if they have been out of the ground for a while, but as I'm digging them up and planting them immediately into the ground and the soil I have removed them from is quite damp from the winter weather, I haven't soaked them. Once the membrane is down, work out the spacing and cut a cross in the membrane just big enough to squeeze the root ball through and tuck the flaps in. Dig a hole big enough for the roots of each plant. Apply some bone meal into the hole to help the plant build strong roots. Then fill the hole with the soil and heel to firm in. Make sure there are no air pockets. I started off using a spade, but this was quite tricky and I kept ripping the membrane. I switched to an auger and a post hole digger, which made the job so much easier. With Olivia's help, the job was completed twice as quick and the hedge is now planted. The plants were watered in well. This helps to settle the soil around the roots. If there is rain regularly, then there is no need to keep watering, but if there is a dry spell in the first year, then it's a good idea to water the hedge and help it establish. I have found that yew hedging to be very trouble-free. The only thing it doesn't like is waterlogged soil, so if you are on clay, then the addition of grit to add drainage may be necessary. Now that the hedging is in, I can really imagine how this area will look when the hedges grow up and begin to knit together. Yew hedging is always thought to be a slow-growing hedge, but this is not really true. It only becomes a slow-growing hedge when the main stem is cut, and so because of this it is the perfect hedge. It is easy to maintain and it stays looking good all year round. So, until it reaches the desired height, only cut the sides. This encourages it to put on side shoots and become bushier and thicker. We will cut the main stem when it reaches about 6 foot tall, and it only needs to be cut once a year to keep it looking good. Yew really is the king of hedges, and because it is such a long-lived hedge, this will hopefully be around for many years to come, so it is important to get the planting right at the beginning. The greenery really helps soften the look of this area, and with the addition of more planting, seating and lighting, the area will really come to life. I'm so excited to use this new area really soon, and hopefully we will be able to share it with family and friends, both during the day and late into the evening. Thanks for watching, and join me again in the next video. Bye for now.